and welcome to my last Wonderland directing class online this summer on Wonderland TV. If you haven't watched any of these, my name is Kaleigh and I teach acting at Wonderland. And this summer I'm going to be directing an online production. That's right, we're doing the whole thing online. It's going to be 2 weeks starting July 8th. Students will be logging in from 3 to 3:40 Monday through Thursday, both of those weeks. We will cast after the very first session. And we're basically writing the whole show. It's going to be about a bunch of campers that are going to a musical theater camp, think like Camp Rock or something, and they have to audition for the camp ahead of time online. And there will be a director, a music director, a choreographer, and various campers, all roles in the production. So anybody that signs up for the class will be eligible and will be in the production. So that's something you should go look at right now on. Like I said, I'm directing the show, and everyone that's in the class will be participating in this Zoom production. It's going to be a lot of fun and very funny, and kids are going to get their chance to show their acting skills and dancing and singing and all kinds of stuff. So please go check out Wonderland Performing Arts for that, and Wonderland in Space this summer. So this is the last class, like I said, and I've been teaching this class now for, I don't know, like 10 weeks or something, and we've been calling it. It's for people, anybody interested in directing in the future, probably on a community theater level, and I've given lots of tips and advice throughout the whole class, done classes on a wide variety of topics, and this week I thought it would be fun to look back and to do a top 10 list of what I think are the most important pieces of advice that I've given throughout this whole class. So basically, if you don't want to go back and watch all of the videos, if you just watch this class, you will get the things that I think are most important. So if you think any of them are interesting, you can go back and watch the videos on those, because these are going to be posted on Wonderland TV for, I believe, the rest of the summer. So I'm going to start with my top 10 list. Let me get my little trusty book right here. Okay, these are kind of in order from what I thought was least important to most important, but I didn't think too long and hard about it, so don't take my rankings too seriously. Number 10 is, don't be afraid to not cast people. When you're a director, sometimes you will have people come to your auditions that for one reason or another are not a good fit for your show. Maybe they have something going on the week of tech. You know, maybe they are out of town, your tech week. I had this little kid last summer. He was amazing, but he was going to be gone to Disney World during tech week, and he wasn't going to get back until family and friends night. I didn't cast him because it just wasn't what I could work with, and I had enough strong people that I didn't necessarily need this kid in my cast to do that, and I knew it would give me stress. Maybe you've heard negative things about an actor, that they're not committed, that they don't show up to rehearsals, that they're not great at following direction. You don't have to cast that person just because they showed up for your show. Maybe someone's difficult to work with, has a bad reputation, or is just not a good fit for your show. You are the director, you have to make that decision. Don't be afraid to not cast someone. I give you permission. If the person doesn't work for your show, for whatever reason, you have permission to not cast them. Number 9, don't choose a show based on a movie. I'm going to say that again. Don't choose a show based on a movie. When people film a movie, they make lots of changes. West Side Story movie is very script itself. Grease the movie is a completely different thing than the script of the show itself. Songs are different, scenes are different, characters can be changed. Now, can you get inspiration and decide to go read the script based on a movie? Absolutely. I mean, I do that all the time. But do not just choose a show and go ahead and license it based on a movie. You can end up in a bad situation with something you did not realize you were going to get. That's number 9. Number 8, educate yourself on acting techniques. Find one you like and use it in your direction. Now, if you watched my episode on directing actors, I talked a lot about my favorite acting teacher and the technique that I utilize, and that is Uta Hagen. Uta is UTA Hagen, Hagen. She was a fabulous actor on Broadway. She was the original Martha in Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf, and she went on to create her own acting studio. You can find videos of her directing on YouTube and stuff, and she's written 2 amazing books, Respect for Acting and A Challenge for the Actor, both of which I utilize in my directing style. Uda's style comes from Stanislavski. It's kind of an Americanized version of Stanislavski, in which everything is based on intention and what you want in the scene, an objective, and then you fulfill an action to obtain your objective. And then there's a substitution from your own life in order to bring the character out of you. Rather than putting a character on, you pull the character out of you. This is my favorite acting style. I learned it in college, and it's what makes sense to me. It comes from a very logical, theoretical, place that I can figure out, and I can make sense of every single scene approaching it that way. It's what works for me. There are so many acting styles out there that are wonderful, that are great, and I encourage you to read up on many of them and see what works for you, so that when you are directing actors, you have something to grasp onto, to give them advice, and to direct them in a way with an acting style that is concrete in your mind. You're not just grasping at straws. This is going to require you to do a little bit of research, a little bit of reading, and figuring out what works for you. But I definitely think that every director needs to have a firm grasp on an acting style. Like I said, whatever one you like and that you use as your directing language is what I think you should work with. But it's going to require a little bit of research. But go research some acting styles and figure out what works for you and use that in your direction. Not every actor that you are directing is going to be following your directing style, but it gives you a language to speak. And if you're consistent, then they're always going to know where you're coming from. So that's the main reason for it. All right, that was number 8. Number 7, your job as director is to be the authority/expert on the script. So what does that mean? That means that you need to read the script multiple times. You need to research the things in the script, and you need to be the authority. You need to analyze that script. You need to analyze the lines. If an actor says, what does this line mean? Why am I saying this? You need to have the answer. As a director, that is your job. And some directors think that the songs are not included in that. Wrong. That is not your music director's job, is to understand why the words are being said in the song's particular way. That is your job. Songs are monologues or, scenes. They're still dialogue, they are still words in the script that you have to direct the actors for. Even though it's a song, you are responsible for making sure that the direction of that song is clear to the vision and presents the script in a clear, cohesive way. Even dance is part of that. So as a director, it is your job to be the authority on every aspect of your show. You cannot just hand over a particular part of your show and not have any say in it whatsoever. Now, you can trust your team, which we're going to get to later, but you still should know what they are doing and why they are doing it, and understand it and make sure it fits with your vision. There was a big episode that I did a few weeks ago on play analysis, where I went much deeper into how to analyze a play, how to read a play for the first and second and third time. And I suggest that you go back and look at that, and that you look up books on play analysis and play directing in order to get a better grasp on this. So that's number 7. Your job as director is to be the authority/expert on the script. Number 6. The older the actors, give more freedom to experiment. So I did an episode a few weeks ago on how to direct different, and this kind of wraps up that entire episode, but I went into a lot more detail. But basically, I'm suggesting that when your actors are older, sometimes you need to challenge them to experiment with what they're doing, and get them out of their comfort zone, get them out of their box, to pull interesting performances out of them, because they come in with a set, focused thing of what they think it needs to be. Kids, you can be much more directive, much more specific in what you're asking for. Even to very young kids might need line readings, might need you to tell them how to say a particular line, because you might not be able to direct them to that point because they don't understand what you're saying. Teens, I do believe questioning works very well with teens, and you can get them to that point without giving them the line readings. And then adults, I really think that experimentation is the key. Just testing them to go beyond what they think they need to be doing, and to get them to think out of the box, play with it more, and see what fits. If you have little kids play with it, then you might be stuck with something that you don't want happening on the stage. So definitely more structured for younger kids and more freedom for older actors, and getting them to try some different things, to go crazy in a rehearsal and just see what sticks, because I think that that's how you're going to get your best and most interesting moments on stage, is to try to get people to push the boundaries a little bit. Everybody, especially adults, are a little bit concerned of what everybody's going to think of them. And so if you can play in rehearsals and see what looks good, see what feels good, and see what's interesting, I think that that's a great way to go. So yeah, go back and look at that episode if you're interested in that, because I give lots of examples of how I actually do this in my direction and in different shows. Number 5, directing is managing. Be organized. As the director, you are basically the manager of the show. You are in charge of every aspect of the show. Even if you're not, which in community theater, let's face it, you probably are. Even if you're not in charge of designing the costumes, which in community theater you might be, you are the final say and the manager of everything. Should you delegate? Absolutely. Should you know what you're delegating and give direction to the people who are underneath you when they come to you with a question? Yes, 100%. You need to have a vision for your show and delegate that vision to people, and make sure that it's a clear vision. Make sure you have a decision that you have made on every aspect of the show. It's going to require you to be very organized with scheduling, with working with particular actors on different days based on if they're free or not, with working in different scenes based on what can happen at the same time in the same space. It's going to require you going through the script multiple times and seeing who might be called at different times for different things. It is very tedious, and I think directing requires an organized person at the helm. So if you're not an organized person and you don't particularly want to be, maybe directing's not the best choice for you, because it is, I would say, 70-something%. It just really requires a lot of planning ahead of time, or you're not going to be successful, and it's going to come off haphazard. You have to be organized, you have to plan. And I did an episode on blocking and scheduling. I think that was episode 3 or 4, and I went into great detail about how I plan out my rehearsals, how I schedule my blocking. And it's tedious, but it is a lot of really good information, a good practical episode that you can go back to. All right, number 4, the bottom half. Know your strengths and select shows appropriately. Okay, this one is important to me because I think a lot of people just pick shows based on what they like. And that's good, because you need to have a passion for whatever it is you're doing. You need to know that you enjoy it, and you don't want to direct something that you're not interested in at all. But you need to know that as a person, as a director, what your strengths are, and try to choose shows that are going to work with your strengths. I gave the example in the first episode about my own personal strengths. I am not a big set person. I don't love detailed, intricate sets. I love seeing them. I don't love creating them and coming up with them. I don't love large cast shows. I prefer smaller, more intimate ones. When I'm looking at shows, if something has an enormous, very intricate set and a large cast, there's going to have to be something else in that show with me, or I'm going to have a very good team along with me to make sure those things can take place, to make sure those things can happen. When I directed The Little Fox as a play, our set was very intricate and detailed and had to be realistic, but my cast was very small, and I had excellent people helping me out to make that set what I imagined it would be. Duncan Thistlethwaite, god of set design. The man made my set happen. So you need to, if you're picking something that you know is a weakness for you, you need to make sure that you have people on your team on your side that can pull those things off. Me, I love a bare stage or a very, very limited set that can be used in multiple different ways with a small cast and people hardly changing clothes. Come From Away comes to my mind as something that just is a very specific view of my directing style, what I would like to do. I love that sort of show. The thing that's like the other side, completely opposite from what I would be good at directing, is something like Phantom of the Opera or Miss Saigon. Big set, big cast, intricate things going on. That's not me. But you need to know what's good for you, what works for you, what is your strength. If you're a set person, by all means, I love seeing those big set shows. Go out there and do them. If you're a costume person, have fun and pick shows that really play into your love of costuming. If you love working with children, pick shows that have children in them, because they're, some people don't like to do that. I just think that you should think about what your strengths are. If you love choreography and dancing and telling a story through movement, pick shows that have heavy choreography. On the other hand, if you don't understand choreography and don't really like it in shows, don't pick shows that are heavy on choreography, because you're going to be bored for most of your directing process and or thinking, I don't know how to make this better. If you can't fix it, then why are you directing it? If you don't know what you're doing with something, it's not a good decision to pick something that relies heavily on that particular thing. So that is my advice. Know your strengths and select your shows appropriately. And that does go into knowing the show and not just, basing it on what is going on in a movie. You have to research the show and know it well enough to know if it's going to play to your strengths or not. Number 3, this goes with that one, is surround yourself with a team you trust. Okay. This is one of my favorite, most important things about directing, and that is when I have people working with me that make me better and that allow me to do different things in different shows, because I know if I pick this show, I can trust that person to be there with me and to make that part of it good. Like I said, I'm not the best person at sets, but I had Duncan Thistlewaite on my team, and he built my set for me, and it was amazing. I am not a choreographer. I can dance, but I had Tiffany Poirier with me on Side by Side by Sondheim, and she choreographed. She was my assistant director and choreographer for that show. She made my vision happen on the stage through her amazing choreography, and I could not have done that show without her. I could not have selected that show without her, because it relied so heavily on the choreography. But I was able to do it and able to present my vision on stage because of her. Last summer I directed Snoopy at Abbey Players, and because of Holly Guidry and Ian Bonan, they were able to assistant direct and choreograph and music direct my vision of that show with me. I could trust them every step of the way. You need to have a team of people that you trust, that you can work with, and that will help you execute your vision, that they trust you and your vision, so they're willing to go with you. They're not going to try to overtake. They're not going to try to put their own vision on it. They're just going to give you great advice, and they're going to do what they do best to help you present your vision and your show. So I love my teams that I work with, and I want to work with them over and over and over again. And it's what makes me confident in my ability to do shows in the future, is that I have such a strong team of people that are willing to work with me, and I hope to continue to grow that. And I love you guys. If you're out there watching, I want to do shows with you forever. So make that happen for you if you want to be a strong director. Number 2, treat everyone with respect. I know that might seem obvious, but in community theater, in educational theater, in children's theater, people are there to have fun, and they're there to learn. And even though you're a director and you're in charge and you want things to happen the way you want them to happen, if people are going to have a good experience and come back and love theater the way you do, they have to walk away feeling respected and appreciated. How you conduct yourself in rehearsals is so important to that. Even tech rehearsals, every rehearsal. You need to make people feel appreciated and respected, and that you are glad they're there. They are doing you a favor by being in your show, even though they're having fun and they auditioned and everything. I always see it as a blessing that someone has given me when they are in my show, and I want them back. I want them to want to do shows with me again in the future. And I'm not perfect. I have lost my temper in rehearsals before, but I'm getting better. And I think that this is why it's number 2. It is so important to me. I think that sometimes directors get a bad rap, and they get power, like they feel the power, and they start just kind of going off because they know what they want. They think that everybody should know what they want, and that everybody should just be able to do it, but they're not necessarily communicating it in a way that people can figure out, and so they just get mad. And I've done this before, so I'm not saying I'm perfect. I'm not saying I've never done this, but it's something I'm consistently trying to work on with every single show to get better at, and that is building rapport with my actors and with my team, and respecting everyone so that people want to come back and do shows with me, because that's all I want to do. Is I just want to put on great shows and have so much fun in community theater. This is our time in our regular, ordinary, boring lives. I'm a teacher. I mean, it's fine, but it's my time to be creative and to put something out there in the world that could have a message. That the message could just be like, this is fun. I mean, I'm getting ready to hopefully bring back Xanadu, and there's not a super deep message in Xanadu except for be artistic, be creative, and love people. And I love that. I love that message. And my team, my friends, my people that are doing Xanadu with me, we're all there just to put love out and fun, and it's an escape from our regular, ordinary lives. So it needs to be fun. If you're doing community theater and it's not fun, what are you doing? Why are you giving up your time? Why are you volunteering? So make community theater fun. Make educational theater fun. Make those kids want to come back and work with you and do theater for the rest of their lives so that we can keep theater going forever. Make those kids learn and enjoy it and respect you and feel respect and feel like a great just experience from theater. Make theater a great experience. We all have the power to do that in this world because we love theater so much. Let's make it a great experience so people just want to keep doing it and want to keep seeing it. And that goes into respecting people. And if you do go off, if you do lose your temper or something, have the wherewithal in yourself to apologize. It's okay to apologize. It's okay to admit your faults. It doesn't take you down off of a directing pedestal or anything. You can take someone aside and say, look, hey, I'm sorry I lost my temper. I'm under a lot of stress. This happened. I so respect you, and I so appreciate what you're doing in this production. That would go such a long way. But just leaving it and pretending that it didn't happen, people will walk away from your production feeling bad about themselves and bad about working with you. And you don't want that to happen. So that was a lot, but it's important to me. And like I said, it's something I'm consistently working on because I want amazing people to want to work with me in theater. Number 1, be creative. Try something different. Have a vision. So many of us, we want a paint by numbers, a strict way of doing things because we feel comfortable in that. But directing is a creative outlet. So if you're just doing what the stage directions say in the script, or if you're copying blocking down directly off of a YouTube video or a movie, you are not allowing your creative self to do the thing. You're not allowing yourself to do the creative. If you are not coming up with a vision for your show and a passion and why you want to do this show, how you want to present it a certain way, then you're taking away that creative part of the show for yourself. Directing, while it is managing, I said 70-something%, the rest of it is creative. And there are so many opportunities for you to be creative, and that involve thinking outside the box. And, you know, I had an episode a couple of weeks ago where I talked about how the director of certain productions really changed what that production became. I talked about Diane Paulus and Pippin, and how she, you know, by giving it the circus spin, changed the original production of Pippin and just made it into a new, completely different thing. I talked about Natasha Pierre and the Great Comet of 1812, and how that, just the direction of that, just by Rachel Shofkin, by just completely changed the story of War and Peace and put it in this fun, different environment that broke fourth walls and everything. You have permission to be creative. You do have to do the words on the script, but beyond that, you have to present a vision of the show that feels right to you and that inspires you. And sometimes that's going to require you to take some risks and put yourself out there. But I encourage you to do that. I think that too many community theater directors and educational theater directors want to put up an exact replica of something they've seen on Broadway, on a tour, on a YouTube video, on a movie. And I think that's a tragedy. I think that they're limiting themselves and they're limiting their casts by doing that. I'm not opposed to borrowing things that you really love, that you see. I'm not opposed to starting from a particular place, a movie or something like that, and then seeing what inspires you. But trying to create an exact replica is limiting creativity, and it's limiting yourself, and it's limiting your production. So go out there and be creative. Do the most interesting shows that are true to the process, that are true to the show, that are true to your vision and what the playwright wanted to get across and what you want to get across as a director. The show is your voice. Every time I direct a show, I feel like more of myself is on stage than even when I'm acting in a lead role in a show. When I'm directing a show, every single person that's up there, every single set piece that's up there doing the thing is me. It's my vision, it's my heart up there on stage. And that's why I feel so tied to the productions I direct, because they are my blood, sweat, and tears, my heart and soul up there on stage in living color, like actually happening. And so it's so motivating for me to keep going, and cathartic for me to see my process, my stuff up there on stage. But if I were just doing an exact replica of someone else's something, I don't think I would feel that way. I think that's the part of it that keeps me coming back, is putting my creativity up there on the stage. So I encourage you to do the same, and then maybe you'll find a love for directing like me. I'm happy to answer any questions about directing. If you want to contact me after this video, or if you want to put comments here below, I would love to further talk about directing, because it's one of my passions. I encourage you to go back and look at the other videos in this series, and I hope that you'll get out there and you'll direct something. Like I said, if you're interested in that class that I'm going to be directing this summer on Wonderland, you should look into that. And Wonderland has so many amazing opportunities this summer for kids to get involved and do some things in a safe environment that is going to just inspire their creativity. So I appreciate everyone who's been along here the whole time for my directing class, for Directing 101, and I can't wait to see your shows in the future. Bye.